Steph, after a season like that and a game like that, what did you feel was important to say to your team right after it ended?
Just how proud I am of them. You know, they have been an absolute joy to coach. It's an incredible group of women, an incredibly connected group. They're a great example to everybody.
What unfolds when a team loses 6 of its main players to injuries, sees its star guard taken to the hospital, its all-star center removed on questionable fouls, and still manages to push the reigning 2-time champions to the edge of elimination? That was the story of the 2025 Indiana Fever. Even though the scoreboard showed the Las Vegas Aces on top, Stephanie White's words after the contest revealed where the true victory was found. Today we take you inside one of the most unforgettable playoff battles in WNBA history and why White's message could shape the Fever's future. Share in the comments below how proud you are of this team.
What it means to just put one foot in front of the other, to persevere, to welcome people into the fold, to not give in to circumstance, to lead with grace and dignity, to sacrifice for a greater good and a common good. I'm so thankful to coach these women, and I'm just thankful for this experience with them.
How can a season that appeared destined to crumble under pressure instead turn into one to remember? For the Indiana Fever, 2025 opened with excitement and high hopes, but quickly shifted into a battle for survival. When Caitlin Clark went down in mid-July with a right groin injury, everything seemed to change. Soon after came Sydney Coulson's torn ACL, Aari McDonald's foot injury, Sophie Cunningham's injured MCL, and Chloe BBY's knee issue. Add Dyrus Dantas, missing games with a concussion, and a roster built with promise was suddenly reduced to its core. It looked like the perfect setup for an early playoff exit and another season focused on rebuilding.
Steph, we talked about resiliency with this team all season long, but tonight it felt like that wasn't a strong enough word. Have you been a part of a game like that? And just it felt like everyone laid it all out there.
I feel like there's so many games that we've had this year where that's happened. Where you just you lay it on the line. And I appreciate what O said, because as coaches we talk about this all the time. Like, this group continued to allow us as coaches to push them further, harder, to move the bar, to raise the bar.
The challenge went beyond talent. The Fever didn't just lose their stars, they lost their depth. Injuries mounted so quickly that the team had to rely on hardship contracts simply to complete their lineups. That meant players joining in the middle of the season, trying to learn the system quickly, and being trusted with major minutes. For most teams, that level of disruption would end any hope of the playoffs. Yet, somehow Indiana refused to be broken.
Oftentimes in sport, there's some resistance to that. And there isn't with this group. There wasn't with this group. And because of that, then because of their connectedness, they're able to accomplish things that some of y'all didn't think that they're capable of accomplishing. But nobody in our locker room had any doubt. And in our huddles, and we kept talking about it, that we're ready for these moments.
A major source of that stability came from Stephanie White. Her voice remained steady. Even when outside opinions had counted Indiana out, she made perseverance the theme, reminding her players to keep moving forward step by step. Her message of leading with grace and dignity while never surrendering to circumstance became a thread that carried through the season. It was never only about surviving without Clark, Cunningham, or McDonald. It was about setting a standard for anyone who put on the jersey.
Rosters change from year to year. You'll never have the same group. What's that feeling when you walk out of here knowing this is something you'll be talking about for years?
I think the first word that comes to mind is just gratitude. I've experienced some special teams in this league, in this organization, but collectively, this group has been at the top. So I'm extremely grateful for every single one of them.
That belief showed during the Commissioner Cup when they shocked the Minnesota Lynx despite barely having enough players for a normal rotation. The upset stood out not only for the victory itself, but because it proved this group trusted one another even in impossible moments. Analysts dismissed it, convinced Indiana could not sustain success. Fans outside of Indiana laughed at the idea of a playoff push. Each slight only strengthened the team's conviction that they were more than temporary fill-ins. By the time the postseason arrived, the Fever carried a mentality that is dangerous in sports: nothing to lose and everything to gain. They were not expected to be there, and that made them fearless. That mindset pushed them to the brink of eliminating a dynasty. Taking Las Vegas to a decisive fifth game was no accident. It was the edge created by months of doubt and disrespect. Yet if the regular season built their backbone, the real test came in one of the wildest elimination games the WNBA has ever seen.
This is going to be an off-season full of change in the league. But what these women accomplished together, I mean, it's a special story. It's a special story, and I hope one day it's told. But I'm so proud and so grateful.
What do you get when everything that can go wrong in a single game actually does? That was the tale of Game 5 in Las Vegas. The stakes were at their peak. Indiana stood on the verge of shocking the league. The Aces were fighting to avoid elimination. This was more than a matchup. It was the ultimate test of whether the Fever's underdog surge was genuine or just a fleeting moment.
And hit the mid-range. Mitchell pursues the board. Another chance for Indiana. That's been a theme in the early going. Mitchell a three is good. More second chance point.
Right around the rim.
Mitchell an open look. She got it from three.
From the opening tip, it already felt like Indiana was climbing uphill. They entered the game shorthanded, missing key pieces of their rotation, and leaning on players who were never expected to play major minutes under this kind of spotlight. Even so, they left everything on the floor. Then came the first crushing blow. Kelsey Mitchell, their irreplaceable scorer and the heartbeat of the backcourt, suddenly went down. She was rushed to the hospital after suffering severe cramps, a frightening moment for everyone in the arena. Losing that kind of offensive weapon would cause most teams to collapse. Indiana refused to.
Are you joking me? But instead of unraveling.
At the same time, Aaliyah Boston found herself battling not only the Aces, but also the officiating. Questionable calls had her in foul trouble almost from the moment she stepped on the court. Each drive and every box out carried the risk of another whistle. On the other side, Indiana players were being bumped, shoved, and hit without a call. The frustration was obvious. It showed on the faces of the players and echoed through the crowd.
Fire. She's our battery. She's moving great, and she will drive us, and that's been true so far.
Thank you, Hal. Sims, pull-up jumper, she got it.
Instead of falling apart, Indiana found a way to adjust. That turned the night into one of the wildest and most debated games the WNBA has seen this year. During all the chaos, Las Vegas leaned on its stars. Aya Wilson was her unstoppable self, knocking down clutch shots whenever the Fever tried to rally. Jackie Young kept attacking the rim and finishing difficult plays, showing again why this Aces team earned its dynasty label. Each time Indiana seemed close to taking control, those two answered back.
Physicality to finish over smaller defenders.
Howard turns the corner, whips a pass. Hull gives it up. Sims connects on a three. Odyssey Sims now with 12 points.
But Indiana had its own heroes. Odyssey Sims delivered one of the toughest playoff efforts you could imagine, finishing with 27 points. It was more than the total, it was the moments. Each time the Fever's attack stalled, Sims found a way to spark it. Whether with a pull-up jumper or a fearless drive to the rim, she kept Indiana's hopes alive.
1 Las Vegas run. They have their largest lead of the quarter. Boston finds Turner. Turner didn't want to shoot it. Petty will, and knock it down. The stats have not been gaudy, but the decision-making has been excellent tonight from Greg.
Yes.
Petty, they need it. They've got it. Timeout.
From the bench, Shaw Petty provided a spark, hitting key shots and supplying the energy the Fever needed at the exact moments momentum began to slip.
Defense!
Lob it in, Howard. Out to Hull. 6 to shoot. Hull banks it in.
Lexi Hull, never the flashiest name on the floor, delivered the kind of plays that rarely show up in the box score. She fought for rebounds in traffic, stepped into stop drives, and came up with a steal that turned into a fast break bucket. It was team basketball at its purest, forged under pressure.
What did this team do that has changed the landscape, arguably, in basketball in Indiana?
Number one, they kept getting back up. Collectively. There's no circumstance that we went through on or off the floor. Because we had some off the floor stuff too. That they blinked, that they held their heads down, that they didn't just stand tall and face head on.
The most dramatic sequence came in the final seconds of regulation. With only 27 seconds left, Aaliyah Boston was called for a foul that left everyone stunned, sending her to the bench for good. Losing their star in that moment should have ended the fight. Instead, Indiana dug even deeper and managed to push the game into overtime. The arena buzzed, not because Las Vegas looked unstoppable, but because the Fever refused to quit. Overtime became pure survival. The rotation was thin, the legs were heavy, yet Indiana kept trading punches with the champs. In the end, Chelsea Gray delivered the dagger shots that closed the series for the Aces. But even in defeat, the real story wasn't Las Vegas moving on. It was Indiana nearly pulling off the impossible, setting the stage for Stephanie White's powerful words afterward.
You don't see a lot of that nowadays. I know I sound really old right now, but you just don't. And they continued to pour into one another. They continued to pour into us as coaches. They continued to allow us to push them on days and moments when they could have very easily just given up. Yeah. They loved on us. They loved on one another. And it makes it really special when it sucks that it's over.
Why did Stephanie White's words matter more than the final score? Because in that post-game press conference, after one of the most exhausting and chaotic losses of the season, she gave Indiana something greater than a breakdown of plays. She took a night filled with whistles, collisions, and heartbreak and turned it into a statement about the identity the Fever are building.
How impressive of a job did Stephanie do as coach with all the moving parts throughout the season?
I mean, incredible. Simply incredible. Be so easy to give up and say, we're just gonna take this year, we're gonna be a building year, we're gonna get better, set ourselves up for a good season next year. She came at us and said, and challenged us to continue to fight. So not every coach could do that, and not every coach can motivate a group to do that. And so just really special coach, really special person, and grateful to be able to learn from her.
Picture the locker room scene. Players sitting with ice strapped to sore knees. Trainers treating bodies that had gone past their limits. A heavy silence that comes only after a loss decided by the thinnest of margins. A team that poured out every last drop of effort still had to sit with the sting of an overtime defeat by a single possession. Normally that lingers for weeks. But when Stephanie White stepped to the podium, her voice didn't carry heartbreak, it carried warning. She described her team as an absolute joy to coach. Those weren't empty words spoken after a loss. She honored their dignity, praised their perseverance, and highlighted their unity. In a season where every player at some point questioned whether pushing forward was even possible, those words carried weight. Instead of focusing on mistakes or officiating, White redirected the message to identity. She revealed that this team had found something unshakable, the strength to stay together when everything around them threatened to break apart.
I feel like this season has been all about figuring it out. No matter what happens, what comes around the corner, figuring out the entire staff. I mean, seriously, they just did a tremendous job with adjustments the entire season. No matter what, someone went down, we need a different action. Like, they were quick on their feet, and that's how they've been the entire season. And so tonight, when Kelsey goes down, no surprise. But I think it also goes to show our entire motto has been next woman up. And be ready, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And I feel like that's exactly what happened tonight. And everyone was just ready when their name was called.
That message struck home with her players. Lexi Hull spoke after the game about how battling through constant foul trouble and chaotic rotations wasn't just strategy, it was pride. She described it as fuel, proof that they belonged with every single possession. And that echoed exactly what White had stressed. This wasn't simply a loss. It was the start of a standard.
Steph, I know what a competitor you are. How soon do you start thinking about, okay, let's start thinking about next year?
Tomorrow.
I knew it. You could have held hands with that. I knew it.
See, this is what happens. When you're on the same wavelength, good things happen.
I knew it.
What's that mindset like you both have? And why are you already like, okay, that's happened, we're on to the next?
It's because you can't hold on to it. I mean, you just look at it, and obviously we're going to be watching the championship games, and that's going to be the feeling that we want to be in that next year. And that's going to be the mindset. It's already prepping. I told you, we're ready to go.
And we're competitors.
Exactly.
I mean, at the end of the day, like, this makes you hungry for more.
Analysts noticed the shift as well. They stopped treating Indiana like a patched-up roster that stumbled into contention and began recognizing a foundation taking form. This wasn't some random hot streak, they said. It was a blueprint. Clark returning, Mitchell scoring at full strength, Boston anchoring the paint, Paul bringing hustle, and White steering with her coaching. The outline of a contender was becoming clear, and White's words were reshaping how the whole season was being seen.
Yeah, how will you remember this group and this special run that you had all season?
Yeah, I mean, this has been my best year. Seriously, I think with the people that we had in the locker room, the amount of fun that I had on the court, off the court, in the locker room, we just talked about how special this group was and how we're always going to be connected. And honestly, that's how I feel like these women became my sisters so quickly, and it was honestly just some of the best basketball I've had.
That's why her press conference mattered. She wasn't just calming emotions from one night. She was handing Indiana a blueprint for the future. She made it clear to her players and to the league that their battle scars carried weight. Her words weren't only pride, they were a warning. Don't expect Indiana to fade away, which sets the stage for the next turn in every hero's journey. The Fever will return stronger, now fully aware of exactly who they are.
How are you assessing your growth year over year, and what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like I'm super proud of myself. Just like you said, adjusting and adapting. And for me, like, a championship's always on my mind. I think no matter what happens, like, obviously you hate losing, but you kind of started with your question with just the progression that it's been. And so for me, obviously, that's my mindset. We got a taste of it, Game 5 semifinals, and now we want the real thing. And that's honestly going to be our mindset coming in for next year. And I'm super excited going into this offseason. Time to put a lot of work in. Just get ready to come back and win.
The strength of this core isn't only about talent. It's about Stephanie White's culture of next woman up. She created an environment where every player counts, where injuries don't excuse effort, and that mindset carried Indiana through 2025. It's the same philosophy that positions them for growth in 2026. Add more depth, protect their chemistry, lean into the identity built through adversity. That's the formula for a title run. The Aces may have advanced, but the Fever walked away with something greater. Proof of who they are and what they're building. That's why 2026 feels like the moment to turn heartbreak into history. Indiana didn't leave with a win, but they left with respect. They discovered their identity. They showed that adversity becomes strength when a team refuses to break. This season laid the foundation for championships to come. Now the question is yours. Will 2026 be the year the Fever turn heartbreak into triumph? Share your pride for the team in the comments, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a moment. Tap the video on screen, and we'll see you in the next one.